Hey, everybody, this is Eytan from CommonTime Pathways. We're joined here by my good friend Keaton Hain, who is working in admissions for Syracuse University in Syracuse, New York. If you haven't heard about Syracuse, that's just too bad because it is absolutely a beautiful place to be in the world. It's really smack geographically in the middle of New York State, and it's got a whole host of offerings. Keaton, say hello, and would love to hear kind of what your story is a bit.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. And Eytan, thank you for having me back.
Again.
I know that I guess I didn't do that terrible of a job that you were like, okay, let's do this again, right? But things are good. The weather, I think, has permanently turned up in these neck of the woods.
Yeah.
So
it is late November before Thanksgiving to anybody who's listening to this at a different time of the year.
Yes. I was brave enough to go watch SU men's soccer last night outdoors, not in the dome. So a brisk and balmy about 29 degrees. But
Heck
you
yeah,
do
man.
get used to it.
Okay. You do get used to it. You mostly don't sit down in the audience. You're standing up and keeping yourself moving a little bit.
Yes, you're stomping your feet. You're doing the cheers a little extra because you got to keep that friction going. Got to stay warm.
Heck yeah, man. How did SU do?
Not great.
Dang. Okay. All right. All right.
So, it was it's a good season to be proud of. They went on a little bit of a run and made it to the semifinals of the ACC tournament, got an at-large bid into the big NCAA tournament, but unfortunately were blanked 2-0 courtesy of Hofstra. So
Hey,
if
all right.
Hofstra
Well,
is also part of Common Time. No,
they may be soon. I hope they will be soon, but that's okay. We can leave you guys as competitors on the soccer field. On the music field, let's have you all collaborators here. I think this is really great. So I just want to hear a little bit about what's going on at Syracuse. I know the weather's getting cold, but it means that the kids are starting to really dig in. I know finals is in a week or two after Thanksgiving, and so let's start talking about it. What are the kids up to? How are things going? And what's kind of exciting right now?
Yeah, so when they're not in classes or they're not a part of marching band and traveling and all that good stuff, because we've got football and we've got basketball still going on. So there's the pep band and there's the marching band.
Nice.
Right now, a lot of the students are actually digging into the community and performing in a lot of venues.
Ooh.
Last night, I actually went to a couple of concerts. One of them is at a place called the Fitz, which is a 1920s kind of Gatsby-esque speakeasy in the basement of a restaurant called Oh My Darling. And our jazz group, who is spearheaded by Marianne Solivan, who is an incredibly talented jazz singer, absolutely rocked it last night. Incredible performances by our students there. And then over at a place called Funk and Waffles, which is known for their crazy concoctions of waffles and toppings. One of our rock groups, our student rock groups, actually packed that place too. So
that's cool. Are those music majors or non-majors or both, or how's that work?
It's a combination of both. Most of them, like most of the jazz folks, because of the level that they're at, those are students who are studying music. But the rock group is kind of a fair balance of majors and non-majors.
That's cool. So you'd also do contemporary majors for music, because also if somebody wants to be a rock and roll guitarist, they can still come and study at Syracuse. It's not just classical guitar and conservatory style stuff. Yeah, you have contemporary programs. That's really that's really cool. And it's so funny. People still think about jazz as a contemporary program, and I'm just kind of like, it's kind of sailed on that one. That ship has sailed mostly in the 1960s and 70s, but it's all good. No, it's cool though that you have those kinds of opportunities. And do they get like connections and networking with the community at large when they do that? Like, do they talk to producers and managers in the field? Like, that's kind of cool because then they could network their way into other gigs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So I'll speak about the Fitz event because I spent a little bit more time there. So one of my senior students, her name's Cece Casenza, she's a music industry student, and she actually works with a variety of the venues and managers to book these locations months out in advance. So even in the backyard of Syracuse, she's compiling her resume of here's this event that I've put on and here's these. And I mean, there's a pretty popular music scene in Syracuse. There's the Westcott, there's the Landmark, there's the amphitheater for your bigger kind of summer shows, but almost all of the bars and restaurants downtown have some sort of live performance niche that they can tap into. So
that's really cool.
It really is a gold mine for students to do classes by day and kind of, have bookings and their gigs at night and really only have to go about 8 or 10 minutes. You don't have to, fly to New York City on the weekend to get that kind of experience. It's really valuable for students to have.
So that's cool. So like Cece is the senior. She is getting a degree in music performance or in music industry or arts management. Like, what does that look like?
She's getting a music industry BFA degree.
Whoa. So a BFA in music industry. All right. Talk to me. What is that?
Sure. So that essentially means 75% of the courses that a student will take over 4 years will be all about music and the business besides. So she has taken theory and musicianship and ear training and all that kind of classic music stuff. But then she sinks her teeth into like sound recording. There's a lecture series that will bring performing artists and recording studio specialists to campus. And if she is so ambitious, I don't think this is her plan at this moment, but she could actually pivot and do our 3-2 program. The
3-2.
Yes. So you do 3 years as a music industry BFA student. You get your degree in 3 years.
Oh.
And then you spend an extra 2 on campus and you get an MBA through the Whitman
Whoa.
School of Management.
So you have the School of Management working with the BFA students. It's just kind of like an auto roll.
Correct. Yes.
Do you apply for that 3-2 program, or can you apply for that when you're already a BFA student?
You apply for that once you're already at Syracuse. You're already a BFA student. It's typically
That's
like
awesome.
a end of your first year sort of deal because we got to make sure we can fast track you and get all of your classes done in a row. Your first 2.5 years will be all of like the music-y stuff. That third year, you see that transition where you'll take like essentials of marketing and music industry law and ethics. And then the final 2 years are your financial accounting, managerial financing, strategic management, like your more heavy lifting businessy classes.
That's cool. I'll tell you, I mean, Berkeley, eat your heart out. I mean, there's a lot of music programs that don't do enough in terms of business. And so many musicians leave and say, well, what's my music degree worth?
Right.
And they don't realize it's worth a lot. They just don't know how to monetize it. And they don't know how to capitalize on what skills they have. And that's also part of the conversation CommonTime keeps having. Like, we have a free content module at ctpathways.com. Any kid can make a free account and can watch this content module. There's a consultant on there who talks about like 19 different pathways towards making money in music. It's not just go to the BSO or the New York Phil and, you know, those are your only job options when you leave with a classical degree. Like, there are so many ways to make a living as a performing and living musician, working musician. And business does not get enough enough clarity in a lot of these conservatory programs. That's brilliant. The fact that you can have a BFA. Is the BFA auditioned or is a program?
The BFA, you can audition, and there is also a non-audition pathway that just launched this year.
That's
the
cool.
The only difference is you will actually meet with a faculty member who will grill you a little bit, 25, 30 minutes, but get a sense of your aspirations, you know, why you chose to do the non-audition pathway, experiences, resume, things like that. So I think the program has done a really good job at being accessible to students who aren't coming from robust music programs in their high school.
Well, and that's the cool conversation that's being had all over the place, which is that most of the money in music is not in classical conservatory style performance anymore.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I know people are shocked to hear that classical music isn't a huge money-making industry anymore. It does still have a lot of money involved in it, but that's because there are some people who are diehards, and those people tend to be very in love with their traditions and their love of Beethoven and Mozart, which I share that love.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, the money is not with performing Beethoven anymore necessarily. So that's cool that the BFA can both be auditioned and non-auditioned. And I'm assuming that there's just a kind of a different lessons approach and a different approach in terms of what the BFA does and the heaviness of electives towards business style and arts administration. That's really cool to me. I think that's very, very exciting. So is there kind of a trajectory for there? Let's talk to me about the business piece. Does it still tie back to music and like intellectual property law? Because I know that's huge and brand new, like copyright, patent, all that stuff. Like, is that included?
Yes. So oftentimes what will happen is as you're finishing up the MBA part of your 5-year experience, we've also connected you with a program that's called Gilbert Week. Gilbert Week is funded by 2 alumni who graduated in the 70s, but will take about 20 or 25 students to some hot spot around the country for music and business. For example, a couple years ago, we took students to South by Southwest in Austin,
Yeah.
Texas, and they met a bunch of the professionals who helped pull off that festival, right? Last year, we took students to New York City. They went to Disney Theatrical. They went to the Penthouse Recording Studios. They connected with alumni at Sony, at Live Nation. So
if any of our listeners haven't heard of the Penthouse Recording Studios, y'all got to just do a Google search real quick.
Yeah.
It's some pretty amazing musicians there.
It's incredible. And this year, we just announced we're taking students to Nashville. So they're going to be up and down Broadway, the Grand Ole Opry. You're talking about, I hate to use the by day, by night analogy again, but it's by day, I'm in the classroom and I'm learning these skills. And then by night, I'm going to Broadway and I'm meeting performers and I'm meeting professionals and I'm getting cocktails with heads of major recording studios. And I always like to say when students are nervous about considering the arts, especially music as a degree, as far as job placement goes, people think it's this big, endless, soup that you're just going to drown in. The industry is about that big.
Yeah, people know each other.
It's really important that an equal part of your education, besides studying for your exams, is getting you out and meeting people, which compared to a lot of programs out there, I really think Syracuse is head and shoulders above a lot of institutions in that realm.
That's really cool. Have you seen a lot of people get picked up that way? And what do you think, like, I know you're not the professor who's responsible for teaching these kids how to meet with, industry professionals.
Yeah.
But what do you think is a very valuable skill? Like, because I know we talked in other podcasts about the network effect, right? And we've talked about the idea that, you can, if you want, you can go on LinkedIn and Indeed and apply to 60,000 jobs and get a couple of interviews. And I know that's a disheartening thing, especially as a musician, to think about. But what's this concept of how many people you know, right? You still will probably get your first job from somebody you know.
Definitely.
And you will probably then get your next job from somebody you meet at your first job who finds themselves in a different trajectory. And then you will probably get asked back if you're a good hang. Right?
Absolutely.
And so that's a cool thing, because we had a podcast some months ago with a professional guitar player in LA who literally talked about the good hang. Like, talk to me about Syracuse and what's the hang like? Like, when your students go out and you're saying by day they're students,
Yeah.
and there's the college hang. When you go by night, how do you teach a 19-year-old how to hang without illegally drinking?
Great question. I think that there's three things that I always steal from a Tom Hanks interview that I think if these students do these three things, everything else will come naturally. And that's show up on time, know the material, right? Know your instrument or know who you're talking to, and have an idea. Because I think there's a lot of students who are maybe like hesitant, especially that last one, to offer their ideas.
Sure.
Because they might have this, I'm in the room with this huge network exec, and of course they're the expert, and what do I know? But you wouldn't be in the room in the first place if the person who invited you there didn't want to hear what you have to say.
Also true. That's interesting. I like to balance that, because obviously the Tom Hanks stuff is clutch. We've all heard it. We've all read it. It's like, it really makes a ton of sense.
Absolutely.
For me, it's the listen and learn thing that had to be beaten into me. I'm a trumpet player by trade, so, listening is really hard for me.
No.
My fellow trumpet players out there are groaning, but y'all know what I'm talking about. So in the end, I think like me having an idea as a trumpet player was the hard part. It was also being a good hang is not just knowing your part and having an idea. It's also listening to the ideas of others and not necessarily having an opinion. Just absorb, learn, think, and then it's amazing how fast people start talking about you. You don't have to talk about yourself. Like, that's the hard part for a lot of us musicians who think, I've got to be the lead guitarist, I've got to be the lead singer, I've got to be the trumpet player in the band, I've got to be the person making the shots, calling the shots, and that tends to be another music industry trope that everyone says that person's hard to work with. And I had to learn how to not be so hard to work with. Not gonna lie, that was my challenge, right? And you can ask the people who work on my team; they still think I'm sometimes hard to work with. But I think the really cool thing is that as a musician, I've had a lot of people who, as a good hang, they listen, they talk, they think, and they actively engage with other people's ideas too. And often that gets back as, hey, this person's a really cool kind of like talking partner. Like this person's a thought partner. This person listens a lot. This person has some good ideas of their own, but it's also reflective of everybody else's. And so like making other people's ideas feel important is really kind of cool for your own networking.
And I think, the most important thing is like be kind, right? You never know who you're talking to and who they're going to be in 5 years, 10 years. Right? A production assistant might be running the recording studio that you're looking to get into in a pinch. And they're going to remember how you interacted with them.
That is very true.
4 or 5 years ago, right? So I always tell students that because the industry is so small, people will remember how you treated them when they were, a nobody.
Nobody. when everybody feels like a nobody, and that's
when everyone
like,
feels like a sure.
When everybody feels like a nobody, like it's not like and me as a trumpet player remembering that I was a nobody was again hard, but like it's one of those kind of growth experiences that's what college is for a lot of people, is figuring out there's a lot bigger people out there, a lot bigger fish out there, and that a lot of people have a ton of experience. But as you mentioned, be humble, be kind, like those are life values to live by, not just in the music industry anyway. I mean, how can you be of service is another one too. And I think that's really cool too, especially when we talk about music. Like, how can your music be of service to what this person wants to do? How can your music be of service to what the vision of this organization is? That's a whole other piece. And then that's when people really start calling you, is when you say, oh, this person can help me.
Yep.
And that's fun. That's a ton of fun. Yeah, that's cool. Are there any other kind of exciting things coming up in the winter? I know we talked about the Gilbert situation, and coming up next semester, like what are we looking at, and how are things looking for Syracuse as a whole? Setnor is its own beautiful world.
Yeah, it's an incredible place. You're literally working and performing in a castle every day. I'm very lucky.
It's a castle?
It is a castle. If you Google Setnor School of Music, it looks like the castle at Hogwarts from Harry Potter. That is not an exaggeration.
I did not know that. That's cool.
It's very cool. It's got
you get to work at
bell
Hogwarts.
tower.
You get to work at Hogwarts.
I do.
Okay.
Wow.
As I'm using the Deathly Hallows to hold up my microphone right here. Yeah, look, keep it at the right height so that the camera can still catch it.
You've got it. A couple of really cool things coming up. So we've got Holiday at Hendrix, which is when all of our choral ensembles will gather in the chapel on campus and each perform. It's an incredible space, and the students are so talented. It's a wonderful event to go see. We'll also, in the world of kind of musical theater, we'll have Frozen being our holiday production, and A Christmas Story, which is really exciting. And then next semester, there's a lot of really great classes that are being offered. The springtime is historically when the Beatles class is always offered. I took that when I was a student at Syracuse myself. That was taught by Bob Halligan. And it's once a week. You learn everything there is to know about the Beatles. And we got some really cool speakers to come in and address us. So like Peter Asher, who did a lot of songwriting, came in and spoke with us. May Pang, John Lennon's girlfriend during the Lost Weekend. So a lot of really neat people. Yeah, and then, once a week, 2.5 hours. At the very end, the last class, the professor brings in some musicians, and they just do a concert of all your favorite Beatles songs that you learned about over the course of the semester.
All right, this is a lot cooler of an idea than I originally gave it credit for in my brain. This is cool. That's really cool. No, that's really awesome. And that's awesome. So anyway, this has been really fun. I know we get these little snippets and windows into what's going on in the program, and as things grow on, of course, if anybody listening is on CommonTime Pathways, I think you guys are doing a featured event probably beginning of December.
Yes, so, it is the first, I believe it's December the 3rd. It's that first Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time.
Yeah.
And it's all about doing well at your music audition. It's not just for seniors who are going through the process. It's for juniors, it's for sophomores. We want to really get you inside the room as to what happens during a music audition, what faculty you're looking for, and I'll have some current students who have gone through that audition process before who will be able to offer their insight and some tips and tricks as to how they ultimately nailed that audition.
Sweet. All right, so December 3rd, we're announcing the time probably around Thanksgiving next week, and it's going to be some current students as well. This is going to be really awesome. So That's awesome. Yeah, if you want to take an audition, even if you're a freshman or a sophomore in high school, this is going to be a great window in. So let's go take a look at that. Keaton, thanks so much for hanging out. This is always a good time. And I mean, I'm probably going to hang out with you guys at NISMA beginning of December at some point. And that'll be a good time for anybody who's going all the way to Rochester. But thanks again for hanging out.
Of course. And I wish everybody a very happy holiday season.
Yes, sir.